So you'll be told to do scar massage if you've had a caesarean scar, but you're often not given an awful lot of detail. Try to think of the process as having stages. So the first stage, up to 6 weeks, is about the scar knitting together well, and it will be covered for quite a bit of that time by the dressings, and then your midwife will guide you to open the dressings and get some air. And in that time, you just want to stay friends with your abdomen. It can be quite tempting to just not go there, not look, not touch, but that can build up a bit of a fear and avoidance behavior for you with your belly. So feel free to stroke your tummy and go round the scar with your hands. But if you don't feel comfortable with your hands, a starting point would be to use something like a damp flannel to rub across and around the scar and anywhere on your belly that feels sensitive or numb, because it can go both ways. You can feel numb from the procedure, or you can feel hypersensitive. And a damp flannel will float across your skin really well. And you can come across the top of the scar and also down and underneath it. And people often forget to go under it and round it.
But very much not focusing on the actual scar itself.
I agree. So we'll leave the actual scar itself to the third stage.
Okay.
So first we're after sensations becoming more regulated from the numb people feeling less numb and the sensitive people feeling less sensitive. So you're all trying to meet in the middle.
And obviously we sort of talked about the abdomen and so on as well. So really, coming much further up as well, or starting much further up and working down perhaps.
Yes, wherever you feel it's had an impact on you. And you might be quite surprised how high that is and how low that is, which is why people who've had a caesarean can often have problems underneath as well, because look how close your scar is to your pubic bone, and then those tissues attached to the perineum and the hips. And it's all much more compact than you necessarily have thought about it as. If another alternative to a flannel is some cotton wool, or this is a baby nappy liner, something light and soft, also lovely to just drift about over your skin. Let your brain connect.
Are there any particular movements, just literally sort of going with the flow?
Yeah, with this stage, it's just touch that feels nice and positive.
Great.
Yeah. Now, the next stage, we can be a little bit more directional. We want to think about separating the skin layer from the layers below. So maybe we're thinking of the duvet separate to the mattress.
Okay.
Yeah. And everywhere in your body, you can move your skin in all different directions on the muscles below. And the skin and the fat layer move together, and then the muscles and then the bones.
Okay.
So the next step is to use your fingers, and they can just be clean hands or hands in gloves, or if you prefer something between you, again, you can wrap your hand in a flannel, but I'll use my fingers too, and start with backwards and side to side movements above and below the scar. So we're on the skin, not the scar, but we're trying to move that skin. And we can do side to side or up and down movements. And you can do them like I'm doing up, down, up, down. But if you find a spot and you think, oh, it goes down nicely, but doesn't want to go up, it feels a bit sticky, then you can just push up and hold that for a moment, do a couple of breaths, and then let go, and then repeat it. Push up into it, do a couple of breaths, and then let go.
And so how would we, figure out what kind of pressure we should be using at the beginning?
I would think of something like testing fruit. So particularly something like an avocado. You don't just want to know what the skin's like. You're trying to push enough to feel whether the avocado is ready to eat, but you don't want to bruise it. Otherwise, then you've defeated your avocado testing.
Yeah.
So yes, you're doing it nicely there.
Okay.
You're making movement.
Yeah.
I think that's the important thing, is you're creating movement, but you're not creating bruises.
Okay. And it will be different for everyone, I suppose, in terms of what's comfortable.
Absolutely. Some people, it will just be a light, very cautious touch to start with, but gradually allowing yourself to go deeper. I always say test on another bit of your body what you would tolerate. So if you go for your upper arm, you're quite happy that this is not uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that should feel as comfortable as that. But you may have to start light and get used to it and get it moving.
Yeah.
Now, don't forget to go across the top, round the ends, and underneath. So about an inch below the scar as well as above it. I think underneath the scar often gets forgotten.
Yeah. And so are we going to then move on to the scar itself?
So that would be the third stage.
Yeah.
And we usually suggest you wait a minimum of 12 weeks to come on the scar and that it's healed really well. But you could do the scar massage. I think the oldest cesarean I've done, the child is 38.
Wow.
So it's never too late either. So I used to say 12 weeks to 12 years, but it really should say 12 weeks till about 42 years. So never too late to address the scar. And then that's a slightly different approach. You're going to put your pads of your fingers on your scar, and then you're going to press down and then move it.
Okay.
And then back to where you came from and then move it. So it's almost like you're holding it steady and then stretching it in its different directions. Yeah, there. So you press down and then you stretch it.
Okay.
And you can be quite, once you pass the 12 weeks, you can be fairly assertive with it because it might not feel like it wants to do that because it might have formed some higgledy-piggledy tissues.
Yeah.
But as you move them, it's causing no more trauma than breaking up little cobwebs. And they need to move because if they don't move, you're going to have a stuck scar.
Yeah.
You're not breaking anything, you're just encouraging stretch.
Yeah.
And you can do side to side, up and down, and you can do rolling, which would be to pick up the scar and rub it in your fingers, a bit like you would with pastry or cooking, you know, like rubbing flour.
Crumble.
And like crumble mix.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, you just did that when as soon as you thought about crumble, you knew what to do. And I think, again, it's like you don't know what to do until you think, well, what would I do somewhere else?
Yeah.
What's a similar action? Yeah.
And with the sort of rolling action, is that just along the scar this way, or might we do it that way as well?
It depends what angle's going to work best for your hands. So going along it is nice. But as you say, if you felt that you could come along it from another angle, do.
Okay.
Our bodies should move in every which direction.
Right.
So there's no direction it shouldn't be able to move. You think you've got to reach behind you in the car.
Yeah.
You've got to stretch up here and it needs to go with you when you're moving.
Yeah.
If it goes, well, I only go right, I don't go left. It's not very useful.
Very helpful. Great.
And so those are your 3 stages. Desensitization of something that's feeling very painful to touch or bringing back sensation of something that's numb. Then around the outside of the scar, making sure that the skin and the fat layer are moving freely on the muscles. And then the third stage is the scar itself, which will be red and raised initially, but over the course of 2 years will settle into a thin silvery line. But it's quite a long time it takes to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 15 months postnatal and mine is still pretty raised and really quite red as well. So everyone is different in terms of how their body heals.
Yeah, and that's not healing. It's just taking its time compared to the quick ones.
Yeah.
And one day that will also look flat and silver. It will just take longer than some others.
Thank you.
Pleasure.